Hello, bonjour. Welcome, everyone. My name is Eric Chapuis, Business Advisor here at the World Trade Centre Winnipeg. I would like to begin today's webinar with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are gathered on the lands of the Treaty 1 territory and that Manitoba is located on the traditional and ancestral land of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Innu, Ninistalune, and Dakota Oyate nations. We acknowledge we are also on the homeland of the Red River Métis, and that northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are ancestral lands of the Inuit. The World Trade Centre Winnipeg team respects the treaties that were made on these territories and acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and present throughout our nation. Thank you for joining our webinar today. I would like to introduce you to Ryan Bialik and Kyle Brunn from Clear Concept. Before we begin, I want to share a few housekeeping items. Please send all your webinar questions directly to the chat box at the top of your screen. And Ryan and Kyle will try to answer as many questions as possible at the end of the Q&A session. But if you would like to ask some questions during the presentation, please insert them in the chat. For all logistical questions, please send them directly to the chat box and I will answer your question as soon as possible. You will also receive a PDF copy and recording of this presentation within the next week. All right, let's kick off this webinar. I would like to introduce you to Ryan and Kyle. Ryan is a recognized advocate for the Microsoft Cloud, using his passion to help organizations digitally transform. Ryan has spent the last 4 years at Clear Concept, leading a modern workplace practice that has assisted hundreds of organizations realize their full potential of Microsoft 365. Kyle has been helping the organization across multiple industries discover the power of data over the last 10 years and is a strong advocate of data-based decision-making. Kyle works with clients to uncover actionable insight that elevates organizational effectiveness and adoption of AI tools. So I would like to welcome Ryan and Kyle, and let's start this webinar.
Great, thank you for that introduction. Yes, welcome. This is the introduction to Microsoft 365 AI Copilot. So happy you're able to join us today. This is such an exciting time for technology and AI, and so this webinar is very timely, and really thrilled to see the number of people who have signed up and have turned out for today's session. And a big thank you to the World Trade Center for hosting this event and for inviting us to present to you all today. It's a big honor. Ryan and I love talking about AI, so this is always a welcome invite.
G like George, H like Hen.
So today's presenters, again, my name is Kyle Brunn. I'm the AI and data analyst here at Clear Concepts. And joining me is the manager of AI and modern work at Clear Concepts, Mr. Ryan Bialik. And we're going to be co-presenting for you today. If you're not familiar with us and our organization, Clear Concepts, we're a next generation managed IT service provider. And we have a broad technical and professional services offering, generally within the Microsoft platform. We have a team of over 60 local professionals at this point, and offer award-winning Microsoft 365 adoption services. We have over 3 years of AI experience and are very proud to serve our clients all across North America. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to start off by talking about Microsoft 365 Copilot, of course, and really defining what this is, what this platform is, and what it all entails, and we're going to compare it to that free offering. So if you've already if you've signed up for this webinar and you're attending today, you've likely already experienced that free Microsoft Copilot platform. Again, that's copilot.microsoft.com. Everyone with a Microsoft 365 subscription has access to that service at no additional charge. Now, we're going to compare that service to the paid Microsoft 365 Copilot platform and kind of highlight the similarities and the differences between the two. we're going to touch on Microsoft's approach to responsible AI, again, within the context of Microsoft 365 Copilot. And then I'm going to kick things over to Ryan. He's going to talk about Copilot Chat for us. And then it comes back to me for prompt engineering and kind of talking about the strategy around structuring those prompts in your inputs to AI chatbots. And then we ended off with a day in the life with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Ryan's going to walk us through a project, a single kind of project, if you will, and he'll be walking us through how Microsoft 365 Copilot can be utilized within the scope of this single project, bouncing around between the different platforms within Microsoft 365 to do so. And then, like was mentioned at the beginning here, we are going to be answering questions. Feel free to shoot those off into the chat during the content of today's presentation, and we'll kind of answer them as they come up, and we might address some at the end here as well. Okay, so before we go forward, a big word of warning here. Copilot is constantly changing. So what we're showing here today, it's we have mostly screenshots to kind of exemplify the platform here. Now, what you see today may not be what you see tomorrow. Microsoft's constantly updating the UI, the user interface of the platform, making tweaks to the back end. So there's going to be changes to how this platform looks. It's very much an emerging piece of technology. So just keep that in mind. The concepts and ideas we're presenting here today should be evergreen. So things like prompt engineering should be, those tips and tricks should be valid regardless of which iteration or version of Copilot you're accessing. But just know that visually what you're seeing here on the screen may look very different tomorrow relative to what we're showing here today. So let's define Microsoft Copilot. And what better way to do so than to ask Copilot, what is Microsoft 365 Copilot? And here we got a pretty good response in return. And Copilot stated, Microsoft 365 Copilot is an AI-powered productivity tool designed to enhance the capabilities of Microsoft 365 applications. It integrates large language models with your work content and context, allowing you to perform a wide range of tasks more efficiently. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit further. So you'll notice that we mentioned that large language model. Now, this was developed by an organization called OpenAI. Now, you may be familiar with them. They developed the ChatGPT platform, which was really popular at the beginning of this AI boom. And it got a lot of press, and it got a lot of people excited and talking about AI and AI chatbots in particular. Now, just note, we're not going to get too technical here. We're not going to be going through line by line what that large language model entails, but just know that this is the fuel. This is the engine kind of empowering all of these AI experiences. So just know that under the hood, we have the same large language model that's been fueling ChatGPT, that's also fueling Microsoft Copilot, as well as the paid Microsoft 365 Copilot we're talking about today. Now, what really delineates Microsoft 365 Copilot from that free iteration we mentioned earlier is that we're now expanding the breadth of data available to the model. And here we're expanding it to include all of your internal business data that lives within the Microsoft ecosystem. So recall that, going back to that free version, right? We could access data that was available on the internet. And of course, all the information that we provided within our prompt was also available to the AI. But now we're expanding that to include all of your files, all your data that lives within your Microsoft tenant, making this AI experience much more powerful. So this can include your emails, your Outlook emails, your Teams chats, your files on your OneDrive, the files that you have access to on SharePoint, and much, much more. So this really allows us to generate something new based off of something you already have, again, within your Microsoft tenant. So if you have an existing Word document or a report that you want to kind of replicate the format of, it's very easy to do so with Microsoft 365 Copilot. And all that great summarization, revision, and automation of tasks that we that we experience and leverage within the free Copilot Microsoft has put out is also available here. But again, we're just expanding the breadth of data available to the AI. And then, of course, we can bring together information from multiple sources within that Microsoft 365 platform. So again, we can bring in Teams and Outlook and SharePoint, OneDrive. All this data now lives within the Microsoft Graph, which we're going to be talking about a little bit further. But just know that all this information, all this data is now available within your AI conversational chats with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now, how does this all work? It sounds complicated, right? Okay, so again, it all starts with that private large language model. So again, this is the large language model developed by OpenAI that's hosted privately by Microsoft. Okay, so a large language model interprets and understands your language, your context, and the meaning of your unstructured and structured data. Okay, so again, it's the fuel, it's the engine powering all of these AI experiences. And then, of course, we have our prompts. These are the inputs that we're providing to these AI chatbots. So these are our questions, our details. And also, Copilot stores your conversation in memory. So within the same conversation, your previous prompts, as well as the responses to those prompts from the AI are kept within memory of that conversation and can be referenced and can enhance the subsequent responses from the AI. So again, all that's brought in within your prompt category. And then, of course, we have the specific knowledge here that we're talking about. And again, this is being expanded now with Microsoft 365 Copilot to include the files, the meetings, and the people. Again, all within your Microsoft tenant. So just to drive the point home, again, we have the free Copilot and we have this new Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is, again, a paid service. So Copilot was great. It's a great entry-level tool. So if you're here and you're not all that familiar with AI and AI chatbots, definitely start with this tool. It's a great entry-level product to help get you familiar with AI and how to interact with these AI chatbots. Again, that's copilot.microsoft.com, accessible within any web browser. And again, that's grounded in data from the internet. As we can see here, it says web grounding. That's what that means. And we have the commercial data protection as long as you're signing in with your work account. But Microsoft 365 Copilot, again, expands what's available here to the AI to include all of that Microsoft Graph data. And here we're ingesting that Copilot into all of the Microsoft 365 platforms. So you can see it's in Outlook and Word and Excel, PowerPoint, right? We have Copilot embedded right within these applications to make using AI and AI chatbots nice and easy and convenient. And of course, there is robust data protection, which we're going to dive into now. So responsible AI. A lot of people are concerned about AI and they're wondering, where's my data going? Where's my data living? And just remember that Microsoft takes data and data sovereignty within the context of their AI offerings very, very seriously. They spend billions on security and research and development to ensure that your privacy and data sovereignty needs are respected. Now, note that Microsoft 365 Copilot is not the same as OpenAI's ChatGPT. So those prompts, those inputs that you're providing to ChatGPT, those are saved in OpenAI's backend and could be used to retrain that large language model we spoke about previously. Now, conversely, all of your interactions with Microsoft Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot don't meet the bounds of your Microsoft tenant. So you can rest assured that if you're ideating on some private business ideas or knowledge, that data isn't leaving the context of your Microsoft tenant and will not be used to retrain that large language model. Your data is encrypted and is kept safely within the bounds of your tenant. As well, your tenant admins control the permissions within all the assets within your Microsoft 365 tenant. And this is where we're going to start talking about this concept around being graph grounded. So before we do, let's define the Microsoft Graph. What is the Microsoft Graph? Well, as shown here on the screen, the Microsoft Graph is really all the assets that you have access to within the Microsoft platform. So that includes your Outlook calendar, your Teams chats, your Teams meeting transcriptions, emails, your files on OneDrive and SharePoint, basically everything you have access to, everything you can see within your Microsoft tenant. And you can see you're sitting right in the middle there. Now, what's great about Microsoft 365 Copilot is that it respects the existing user permissions within your Microsoft tenant. So for instance, if I ask Microsoft 365 Copilot about an email in Ryan's inbox, it's not going to be able to tell me. But if I ask it about a Teams chat that I had with Ryan, obviously I would have access to that Teams chat under normal circumstances, and as a result, that information could be pulled in as a source of an answer within a chat to Microsoft 365 Copilot. So just know that your tenant admins are in full control of what users could possibly bring into a Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. It only has access to what you have access to in the Microsoft Graph. And with that, I'm going to pass things over to Ryan to talk about Copilot chat.
All right, thank you so much, Kyle, and good morning, everybody. Let's dive right into Copilot chat. This will sort of be the precursor of that day in the life demo, as Kyle has mentioned. I do like to start with Copilot chat for two reasons. One is it's often overlooked. Of course, we're talking here about the paid for Microsoft 365 Copilot. That subscription is nothing to sneeze at. It's about $480 per user per year. Copilot chat really demonstrates this idea of being multimodal. Again, as Kyle says, picking up all sorts of different signal from the Microsoft 365 graph, not just files, not just chat, not just meetings, but really everything across that graph, and doing so with multiple sources at the same time. So Copilot chat often gets overlooked, but it is also a great demonstration of that notion around graph grounding. So Copilot chat, again, this lives outside of your Office apps. So as Kyle covered, Copilot in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, etc. Copilot chat is just a little bit different. It is one place to go to summarize, to draft, to ask work-grounded questions or web-grounded questions. You do have chat history, so if you're iterating or ideating on something, you can always come back. And rest assured that Copilot chat is still covered by the same data protection as any of the other pieces of Copilot. So what you'll find is Copilot's actually tucked into a number of places. Applications like Teams, browser-based environments like Microsoft365.com. If you use the Edge browser, you've probably seen it there as well. And it's even baked into Windows 10 and Windows 11. So here is Teams. Here's our favorite application of them all, Teams running on Windows. And if you have the paid for Microsoft 365 Copilot subscription, it's almost as if Copilot is a chat colleague or a coworker that's been pinned to the top of your chat module. So you can chat with Copilot there. Additionally, it's in Microsoft 365, or what used to be called the Office portal. If you use office.com or Microsoft365.com to launch apps like Planner and To-Do and Lists and SharePoint and OneDrive, you'll find Copilot there as well. Again, it's baked into the Edge browser, which you can see here in this screenshot. Very, very similar user interface across all of these different offerings. And then again, if you're using Windows 10 or 11, you may have got some updates lately, and you see this is a good example of one of those where Kyle and I cannot change our slides fast enough because Microsoft keeps changing the location of that button. So it might be in the middle of your taskbar, it may be off to the side, it might be in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Your mileage may vary a little bit. But again, if you're using Windows, you can get to Copilot from that way as well. And of course, Microsoft wants us to consume this service on the go. So there are dedicated apps for both iOS and for Android. You can get those from the respected app stores there. So again, just to summarize on Copilot Chat, remember that it is multimodal, and that's one of my favorite sayings these days. And the key there is that it brings all of your graph-grounded data together. Kyle's going to talk about prompt engineering and prompt ingredients in a moment, but consider when you're using Copilot Chat that you can kind of mix and match the sources. While you can ask Copilot Chat what happened in a meeting, you can also specify what meeting, who the meeting was with. You can combine a prompt and ask for everything about a particular topic, whether it's meetings about a project, files about a project, and chats happening in Teams about that project. My favorite Copilot Chat prompt is, and this is sort of begging AI for just the slightest bit of human-like empathy, is, Copilot, I've had a really busy week. What should I be focusing on right now? And again, it will comb through conversations, colleagues, files, SharePoint sites, projects, all of the above to get me some very unique answers. The only thing here, sort of a word of heads up, is your mileage may vary across Copilot Chat. And generally speaking, with Microsoft 365 Copilot, is really going to depend on how your organization uses Microsoft 365. For example, asking your Copilot Chat a question about vacation policy is going to depend on, the information architecture of SharePoint, where those types of documents are stored. If you want to ask Copilot a question about a colleague who may have a particular piece of expertise or experience with a project, again, that's going to depend on your organization really being thorough, using tools like Entra and Active Directory and org charting to make sure the Microsoft 365 graph understands that question. When and where will the next town company be held? Again, depends on your use of events, calendaring, and Outlook, of course. And when you're asking Copilot to create or generate new documents or write for you, again, that is all going to depend on your use of tools like OneDrive and SharePoint for file storage. And on that note, back to Mr. Braun for some tips on prompting.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so prompting. Remember what we said earlier. Prompts are the inputs that you're providing to these AI chatbots, or in this case, Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now, recall back from one of our previous webinars, prompt engineering is the process of designing and crafting the input that you provide to your AI chatbots. Now, much like entering queries into a search engine, there's definitely an art and a science to how you structure these prompts. Now, that old adage of garbage in, garbage out definitely applies here. Submitting well-written prompts will significantly improve the output that you receive from these models. And conversely, poorly written ones will have an adverse effect on your output. So here we've identified 4 key ingredients that you want to include in pretty much all of your prompts to Microsoft 365 Copilot. So the first of these is the goal. Let's be clear and specify what response do we want from the Copilot. It can be really helpful to also include the format of the output that you're looking for here. And next is the context. Include why you need what you're asking for. Now, this could also include who you are and your role in your organization and what industry your organization resides in. So where possible, put up as much context as you can within that prompt to understand, to help the AI understand where you're coming from. And then the source, of course, you want to indicate which sources of information should Copilot reference in its response. Should it reference a Teams chat or an Outlook email or maybe a file on your SharePoint? And then lastly, sprinkle on some expectations. Indicate how the Copilot should respond. Now remember, these interactions are conversational, so if you don't get exactly what you're looking for within your first prompt, don't be afraid to iterate and continue that conversation in order to guide the AI's attention to where you want to be. And if you find the conversation's really veering off course, definitely don't be afraid to just start a new conversation. That'll wipe the memory from the Copilot, and you'll be able to kind of start fresh in that regard. Okay, let's look at a prompt example here. As you can see, we have the 4 components, the 4 key ingredients within our prompt. Our first one is the goal. We've indicated, we're saying here, generate 3 to 5 bullet points. So this, of course, serves as instructions to the Copilot as to what type of response we're looking for. And then we have the context. We're saying, okay, I want this to prepare me for a meeting with a certain client to discuss their specific brand campaign. So that's indicating why we need what we need and who is involved. And then our source here is email and Teams chat since June. And then lastly, we have our expectations here. We're saying, please use simple language so I can get up to speed quickly. So including all 4 of these ingredients within your prompt will be really helpful to ensure that you get exactly what you're looking for from Microsoft 365 Copilot. Okay, back to you, Ryan.
Right on. Thanks again, Kyle. I love this prompt sort of example or this breakdown of ingredients again, because it just encapsulates, again, that notion of being graph grounded. Focus on emails and Teams since June. Again, mixing and matching, being multimodal with Copilot Chat is really, really key to success. So let's shift gears into how to use or what can we use Microsoft 365 Copilot to do. Now, if you've tuned in for a webinar that Kyle and I have done before, you likely know we do a lot of videos and multimedia and sizzle reels, but no videos today. This is all legitimate. This is no marketing fluff from Microsoft. This is legitimate use cases that if you have this product or you soon get licensed to use Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can get going with right away. What I want us to keep in mind for the next, let's say 15 minutes or so, is these 3 sort of C words. What are we doing? We're creating, we're collaborating, we're communicating. I love those words because, again, they sort of match up to other verbs: ideating, drafting, preparing, editing things, working together, meetings, catching up, sharing with other people, and obviously getting our message out, whether it's internally or externally. And better yet, that does match up to applications and opportunities for us to use Copilot. So our day in the life scenario is based around a user drafting a proposal and presentation. So you can probably guess which apps we're going to cover there. Then this worker, this colleague, starts to have some meetings, starts working and collaborating together in a team within the context of normal business operations. And then ultimately we need to get this proposal to the prospective client and handle follow-up conversations both internally and externally. So let's start with creating. So we're going to touch a little bit on Copilot in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the stalwarts of Microsoft Office. Absolutely. We're going to go and use Copilot Chat to go out to the web and get some AI generated content as well. So the great thing about creating and using M365 Copilot in Word is we can start with all sorts of different sources of information, whether that's existing documents, templated files that we have, but this really shines when we want to create a first draft. Is this something we're going to hit publish on, immediately after? Probably not. But if you are facing writer's block or creative block, again, a tool like this is going to help bust through that. We're going to work with some Excel data as well. We're going to find some insights. We'll use AI to help us make our point in our presentation and proposal. We will fine-tune our draft documents, and then ultimately preparing a visual presentation in our friend PowerPoint. So let's start in Word. Again, a lot of screenshots here, folks. Again, I wish I could demo these things live, but just for the sake of time, we've got screenshots here. So in Microsoft Word, you can, as you see, draft with Copilot. And you can create your draft based on up to 3 reference files, and those can pull from SharePoint or OneDrive. And what you want to do here, as we covered in our prompting tips, is give Copilot some context. Here we're going to create a new client proposal based on the layout of an existing document. Here it's just labeled Client Proposal Sample. but also includes some information collected in a another document, and that is the Terrific Trends Overview doc. And Copilot runs its course, obviously, and here's a sample of the output on screen now. The fictitious company is called Olson Harris Limited. It's a proposal for software development services. And again, it's pulling in bits and pieces of our template, that boilerplate stuff that we're going to repeat every time, like our company overview or our executive summary. It's going to bring those bits and pieces in. As well, it's going to bring in the customer specific, the terrific trends specific information about maybe it was an interview, maybe it was a scoping meeting or a discovery type of conversation. We can bring that into play. So what Copilot did generate for me was a 6-page Word document. Again, followed layouts, followed the simple formatting of the sample file, uses information about the firm from the sample file, used information about the prospective client from the overview document. It even went as far as displaying some information in tables rather than a big run-on sentence or a big wordy paragraph. And it did use and leverage web information to supplement the proposal and basically add some additional reading or help our arguments there. But if that's not quite enough, again, this is from that document that was created by Copilot. It's a rationale section in our proposal. Okay, 4 bullet points and some good reading. Again, you can see if you look real close, it's put in the prospective customer's name. It's talked about mission and different software platforms. In this case, it's an e-commerce website is the prospective project. But what if we wanted to take that up a notch? What if we wanted to bring in some real data, some numbers to help our argument? So in this case, we're pivoting. We're leaving Word for the moment. We're going over to Copilot Chat, which again is accessible in so many different ways. And we're just asking Copilot for a simple prompt. Give me a table of data that outlines some growth of e-commerce spending by Canadians, various age groups. Again, relatively simple prompt there. Copilot does go out and scour the internet for us, returns this wonderful table. And again, most importantly, you can check the sources there down at the bottom, highlighted in the red box. And again, important to note that this is going out to the web to get these answers. And even more importantly is there is a shortcut to bring this data into Excel. So which we're going to do right now. When we bring this data into Excel, again, rows and columns, very, very familiar to anybody that's used Excel. But we have Copilot in Excel, and we can do a whole bunch of different things here with this data in Excel. Formula suggestions is probably the most common sort of task that you can do with Copilot. And we'll go ahead and take a look at that now. So we'll just launch Copilot. And here we're asking for a formula column. We're just asking for the suggestion. And before you do anything to your Excel file, before you mess around with some reports or something that you spent a lot of time creating, Copilot in Excel does give you a preview both of the formula. If you're a formula geek like me, you may want to see how Copilot's come up with that, and it even gives you a preview of what the answers or what the results of the formula will be. So in this case, this was a funny learning experience, and again, just to demonstrate that these products are still in the works, is after I hit, insert that column, we told Copilot to go ahead and add column 7 for us. You can see that they're all zeros. And if we go back to our data, I'll just go back a couple of slides here. You can see it's all text. It's 1.2 billion in text instead of numbers. Now, unfortunately, Copilot hasn't evolved yet where you can tell it to change 1.2 billion alpha into a numerical number. So I just did some quick work to get those values here in our Excel. And then after I did that, column 7 started to work for us. So the formula suggested by AI, after I had those numeral or number values there, start it to work for us. Now, kicking things up a notch with Copilot in Excel, there is the option to find insights. The prompt is very, very simple. You can just click or type show insights about the data. Again, nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to change in your worksheets or in a particular tab of your workbook without your express permission. So here we see in the Copilot chat panel, we can preview this chart or this visual before we go ahead, and you can add it as a new sheet or tab in your workbook, or you can paste it right into really any application. And if you see where I'm going with this, is we're going to take this visual. Again, we went out to Copilot chat. We got some information. We've got some values. We brought it into Excel to manipulate it a little bit, clean it up, change text into numbers. And then we've gone ahead and got a visual representation of those numbers. Again, we can copy and paste that right back into Word. So this is the first time, but probably not the last time, we're going to mention something called the round trip. And this is the beauty of a product like Microsoft 365 Copilot, is across all of these different applications, you can bring in bits and pieces, the different results, the different returns from your prompts. You can bring them and utilize them in so many different ways across Microsoft 365. So while this visual was generated in Excel using information from the web that we got with Copilot chat, it's going to end up here in our Word document, right in the middle of our proposal, breaking up, again, many, many pages of exciting paragraphs nonetheless. We can continue on with Microsoft 365 Copilot in Word to help us rewrite, to help us edit and refine our document, whether it happens to be a policy or a proposal or anything similar. So here, taking a paragraph like our conclusion, for example, of our proposal, highlighting that and selecting Rewrite with Copilot, what we get is a number of different alternatives. Usually it's 3, sometimes it's 2, that you can take a look through. You can decide to replace entire paragraphs, sentences, entire sections. You can change the tone. As you can see here, we've got neutral all the way through imaginative tones when we want to rewrite. Or you can decide to insert a duplicate paragraph below or the suggested rewrite below, and then continue to edit it to as you see fit. So rewriting with Copilot, again, in this example here, this screenshot, you can see now that we've got 6 different suggested paragraphs. And that was just because I changed the tone, or I wanted to see a few more alternatives. And again, you can always replace what you have highlighted. You can always insert below. You can have it start from scratch. You can completely cancel. There's no problems there. And last thing we'll touch on in Word is the ability to ask questions about your document. Again, get answers from the content of that Word document. You can use this to validate your purpose. You can use this to check citations within the document. So a couple of prompts that I find quite useful. Is there a strong enough call to action in this document? Does this proposal sound good for a small or medium-sized business? How can I edit this document to make it sound more professional? Again, these are more sort of AI softer skills or more related to coaching, but again, can still help you save some time proofreading. Imagine it's a colleague that you can go and ask to have a review of your document on. Okay, so switching gears to PowerPoint, we know that obviously the written word is a great way to communicate, but what if we wanted to present visually our proposal? And of course, great to use PowerPoint to create presentations and share those. PowerPoint, and specifically Microsoft 365 Copilot in PowerPoint, lets us create presentations either from a prompt or from a file. In Copilot, in PowerPoint, you can ask to create a presentation about just about any topic, and it will go out and use a web-based information for that. Or we can start with a file, which is what we're going to do in this case. So in PowerPoint, a couple of different locations, a couple of different places to start or enable Copilot. And again, you can create a presentation about a particular topic, but we are going to choose from a file. And the file that we're going to use is that Word document that we just created, the Terrific Trends app proposal. And we're going to see what happens. The result is, I believe it's 12 or so slides. Doesn't look like much just yet, but hey, at least we've got slides, we've got an agenda slide, and we would have a slide for each of the formatted sections in our Word document. It's even gone from the Word document and brought in some of those tables. And lo and behold, that visual that we made in Excel from Copilot chat web data got inserted into our PowerPoint presentation as well. Graphically speaking, guy in a green shirt with a happy face, smile on the concluding slide may or may not be what you want. So some ways to sort of up the visual appeal here using a tool. This isn't necessarily Copilot related, but you can use Designer within PowerPoint just to step up the visual appeal here. In a way, it uses AI to try to match the topic of your presentation to some stock photography, different fonts, different slide layouts. Again, use as you see fit to visually improve your Copilot generated PowerPoint. Some other tips here for Copilot and PowerPoint: organizing and improving your presentation, adding sections, adding heading slides. Again, it's sort of the monotony of PowerPoint, if you will. So here you can use Copilot to take care of that for you. And again, even some of those more softer prompts around coaching, asking questions about your presentation. How can you tailor it? How can you change it? What should I focus on? What should I drop? What should I add? Again, Copilot is your friend when it comes to those types of coaching or coachable improvements for your presentation. All right, let's move on to Teams. I'm just looking at the clock. Still quite a bit of ground to go, so apologies if we're not stopping to answer too many questions. We'll do that at the end. I just want to grab through collaborating and communicating here. So collaborating, we know that happens in Microsoft Teams. Copilot is in all sorts of different places in Microsoft Teams. But here the notion of bringing Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot is around arriving prepared. And what I mean there is arriving prepared for meetings and for collaborative situations. Being able to move your team through meetings quickly, make decisions faster, having worry-free meetings. And here's a little tip: even if you're late for a meeting, you can have Copilot catch you up on what you've missed. Keep meeting conversation moving. There's nothing more painful than awkward silence in the middle of a meeting. And then last but not least is after your meeting, staying in alignment, getting things done, and keeping that collaborative environment cooking. So Copilot in a Teams chat. So this may be your project team, your all-staff team, your department team. Again, you can ask Copilot to do a number of different things here. You can ask it to summarize chats, again, with some context around a specific period. You can find out what a collaborator, what a colleague said, decided, is ignoring. And you can even find files and topics, things that were shared. So the example on the right hand of the slide here, the prompt is, what are the open items? And again, you get some sources there. By clicking those numbers, will take you right back to the place in the conversation where Daniela mentioned they will review a script, and Marie mentioned they will finalize designs. So some other sample prompts, again, highlighting information from the last 7 days, what are open items, summarize things that you've missed. Copilot is there to do that work for you. Now, this can happen, again, in Teams chats, absolutely. This can happen in one-to-one chats as well. So if you're just chatting with a colleague in Teams, a one-to-many group chat as well, Copilot is there for you in all of those scenarios. And again, if you're ever stuck for a prompt, just want to call out here that there are always prompt suggestions, things that you can try without even typing the prompts here across Copilot in Microsoft 365. So always look for that little Copilot logo. And again, if you're ever stuck, try those prompt suggestions. Now, moving to meetings, again, we all spend a lot of time in meetings, hopefully in Teams meetings. Copilot is there with you before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. So let's keep that context in mind. So before the meeting, you may use Copilot to, again, catch up on what you missed. What have I missed about terrific trends? Certainly we're working on that proposal, but is there any other collaboration or conversation happening that you should be aware of? So there are some tools around getting caught up on particular documents, meetings, conversations, and emails. Absolutely. When a meeting has already started, or sort of in that during meeting context, you can use Copilot to be there again for helping you catch up, coaching you through potentially difficult or awkward conversations, breaking the ice, if you will, across the different meeting scenarios. The good thing here is that only you can see what you are chatting with your Copilot about. Anyone else in the meeting, even if they are licensed for M365 Copilot, they are not going to see what you're asking your Copilot. So some things that you can ask here: action items, what's happened so far. If you join late, that's really cool. How did a particular attendee respond to a point in the conversation? And again, those more coaching style questions like, what can I do? What can I ask? How can I move this meeting forward? Again, this is great for keeping meetings and making them much more inclusive. Again, keeping that conversation flowing. Here's just an example on the right-hand side of the screen. Suggest some follow-up questions. So Copilot is going through the transcription or the recording of this meeting, and in the moment giving you some ideas that you can ask about the marketing budget, and some questions that you can ask your shop manager about experience for new mechanics. And again, just to reiterate, what you talk to your Copilot about is up to you. No one else in the meeting is going to see that. It always flies in on the right-hand corner of your Teams meeting. And as long as you've got at least transcription enabled, you can record as well if you want the video copy, but at least transcription required so that Copilot can see what everyone has said thus far. And after your meeting, Teams meeting recap, this is probably the number one thing folks talk to us about AI is meeting recap. AI meeting recap is a huge topic right now. The good thing is you can skip a meeting, or perhaps you're double booked. Recording and transcriptions required. Your attendance is not, is sort of my joke here. There's almost a half dozen different ways to get to meeting recaps, whether it's through meeting history in chat in Teams, through your calendar from Teams. There's a Meet app in Teams, and of course using the multimodal Copilot chat across Microsoft 365. I know we're getting close on time, so I'm just going to skip over a few of these very, very briefly. Some places you can go to get to your AI recap. Again, here is Meet on screen now, and this is what that experience looks like. AI generated notes that is able to pick out different topics, is able to pick out when someone suggests a task or someone commits themselves to a task or a deadline. That is all here in the recap tab. And again, we can bring Copilot to ask questions after a meeting. What did we agree on? What did we not agree on? What did we miss from the agenda? And Copilot, as if it was a colleague that did attend the meeting, will return those answers for you. And last but not least, in our day in the life using M365 Copilot, okay, we've created a proposal, we've built a presentation to go along with it, we've chatted with our colleagues and had some meetings, stayed informed and got caught up. We now need to get that proposal out to our prospective client, and that's still done using email. As much as I dig on email, it's still an important part of our day. So we can bring Copilot here to bear to get a handle on our inbox, help us draft email responses, alter or change the tone of our emails, and ultimately, in this scenario, keep our internal team updated with this proposal. So here's a very, very busy inbox on screen right now. And you can see the arrow here is pointing to an email thread that has 5 unread messages. Who wants to deal with 5 unread messages in a thread that you may just be carbon copied on just for fun? Virtual show of hands. Who gets drive-by carbon copied daily, right? It happens. So you can use Copilot here to recap, especially long threads where you may not be the largest contributor or collaborator, but you just want to get a handle on what's going on. Rest assured, Copilot's got your back here. This is the result of clicking Summarize by Copilot on a long email thread. Again, we've shortened it down to a few paragraphs, and what's highlighted in the red boxes here is the sources. If you want to jump to an individual message where Christy talks about safety issues, Miriam talks about compensation for defective parts, you can see the little footnotes there, the little subnotes. Those will link you to those emails in that multi-email thread. Okay, so here's the one where we jump down and talk about some inconvenience for replacement parts. So again, get a handle on your inbox, especially in those multi-threaded, multi-conversation type of communications. But we can also use Copilot to write emails or draft emails for us. So here in the new mail window, we'll just click on Copilot on the ribbon, and we'll ask Copilot, we'll prompt Copilot to create an email to a prospective customer, sharing enthusiasm for the opportunities so far, setting up a new phase that focuses on a proposal that we're going to attach. And again, we get many different, or we get multiple options. In this case, we've got 2. And we can scroll through those just to see which one we like a little bit better. We can decide to keep it. You can always discard. You can always try again. We can regenerate as well. You'll see that across Outlook. Or we can ask Copilot a question or a follow-up question about something that it has generated. So in that case, we'll change, add a funny joke at the end of our message. May not be the best way to communicate an expensive proposal, but hey, here we go. This is what Copilot added for us, a little joke about a fish wearing a bow tie who could be sophisticated. Which brings me to email coaching. Again, you can have a colleague proofread or take a look at your draft. I know I've done that so many times in my career. I'm sure Kyle's even proofread a few emails before I hit the send button for me. But here, Copilot can fill that gap and give you some email coaching on things like your tone, whether you're trying to maintain a professional tone. It may tell you to take the joke out about the fish for sure. It will give you some coaching on reader sentiment, how to show appreciation, being clear about things like dates and terms. And then last is clarity and some tips to keep things concise, maybe citing what kind of file is attached. It's a Word doc or it's a PDF, even trimming down long sentences into shorter, bite-sized ones. And then last but not least, back in Teams, just to talk about communication for a second, because you'll find Microsoft 365 Copilot helps you create Teams messages in Teams channels. Again, great to save time if you're communicating with a department, a team, or all staff. And again, in this day in the life scenario, we've sent our proposal, the client has accepted, we've got some great new business coming in. Let's use Copilot to generate an announcement here in our all staff team. Again, so Copilot has written us a nice heartfelt message to the team and to the collaborators here for the Terrific Trends project. So that's day in the life using Microsoft 365 Copilot. Again, a lot of ground that we covered, a lot of different applications, some that we didn't get to cover, but I'm going to turn things back over to Kyle here to take us home.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. So to summarize, we took a Copilot round trip today. So So we started using Copilot in Word to draft our proposal, and then we jumped into Copilot in Excel to help process some data for us. From there, we used Copilot in PowerPoint to generate a slide deck based off of the content we pulled together in the previous steps. And then lastly, we used Copilot in Teams and Outlook to help streamline our communication efforts with our colleagues. But there are so many more use cases that we didn't cover today. Copilot integrations are available or will be available for SharePoint, OneDrive, Power Automate, and pretty much all of Microsoft's applications. So folks, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You can also get more sophisticated with your approach to prompting by blending various sources of different graph data into single prompts or chats. And of course, Microsoft has lots of exciting new developments on the roadmap for this year and early next year. Now, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by what we've presented here today, Clear Concepts offers a number of Microsoft 365 Copilot implementation packages to help ensure that your users, as well as your data, are ready to take advantage of these exciting new developments in AI. So within these, we help to ensure that your data permissions are set so that everyone has access to the data that they need and nothing more. And then we'll help to set up your licenses and guide you towards onboarding and training your staff to ensure that they're ready to take on this new and exciting platform. And then once you're ready to take the next step in your AI journey, we're here to help you set up a customized Copilot. So this is one that has the ability to reference your internal business data that lives outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. But that will be for another webinar for another day. So that does it for us. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. We really appreciate your eyes and ears. And again, a big thank you to the World Trade Center for hosting this lovely event for us today. We're going to be in the chat here for a few more minutes. So if you have more questions or comments, please fire those off and we'll address them as they come up. But if you do need to step away, again, thank you so much for joining us today on this journey. And we hope to see you in the next webinar.
Awesome, Kyle, and thanks, Ryan. So yeah, we'll open up for questions here. I know some people were mentioning they couldn't put something in the chat, so if you want to unmute or if you want to put your question in the chat, and then Ryan and Kyle will do their best to answer the question.
I saw there was a question earlier. It pertained to Copilot providing sources of information generated from the web. The answer to that is yes. Yeah, when you interact with Copilot, it'll always reference the links, the URLs that it used in generating your answer. So it's really helpful if you want to go back and kind of validate the responses you're receiving from Copilot. I always recommend kind of doing that before passing along that information.
There's another question here from Annie. Is Copilot available inside of Outlook?
Absolutely. So a couple of different things you'll find with Copilot in Outlook. Again, if you have the paid Microsoft 365 Copilot subscription, you'll be able to do the summary by Copilot in your inbox, in email thread. You'll be able to draft and create new Outlook emails. But Microsoft 365 Copilot chat is also there as well within Outlook.
Thank you. Okay, so I know we're a bit tight on time here, so I just posted some upcoming webinars in the chat. So on October 30th, we're having the webinar Unlocking Values, Integrating Circularity into Your Supply Chain. So that will be hosted by Supply Chain Manitoba. On November 5th, Addressing Bias to Build an Exclusive and Respectful Workplace. And then we will have on November 19th, Developing Your AI Copilot Strategy, hosted by our gentlemen here, Ryan and Kyle again. So again, if you guys have any more questions, you guys have my contact information. You guys can send me an email. And again, Ryan, do you guys have your contact on that slide?
Yeah, best way to get a hold of us is clearconcepts.ca or clearconcepts.ca/AI for anything AI specific.
Okay, perfect. There is one more question here. I see Annie, she says, do you have to run your meeting through Teams, or is there an option to have Copilot record and process verbal in-person meeting?
Right on. I'll give two answers to that question. It is better, certainly, if you run your meetings through Teams. That way, Copilot can identify speakers very, very easily. My second answer is, the future is coming where the Copilots and where AI will be able to distinguish between different speaker voices. That's going to depend on the meeting room or whatever hardware you have in front of you for those in-person meetings. So kind of, but coming soon is the short answer.
Wow. Okay. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us today. Again, Ryan and Kyle, this was a great presentation. I learned a few things today. As AI is moving, day by day, it's hard to keep up with all this information. Like I just saw the other day, Google now has their own platform now for AI. So it's very interesting, and this was a great presentation. I'm looking forward for the next one on the 19th there.
Right on. Glad to be here. Thanks everybody for the time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay. Bye.